Worker attendees, leaders, and executives, I'm General Chin, a product manager at Shopee Singapore, and I'm pleased to be invited to attend this Executive Planning Day. Today, I will be presenting to you findings about the business environment and how they will impact Shopee. Let's begin. Firstly, the macroeconomy and understanding the business cycle. Let's kick things off with the basics. Gross domestic product or GDP. Sounds fancy, right? But really, it's just a way to measure the size of a country's economy. GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a nation's borders during a specific period. It includes all the output and firms producing goods and services and only final goods. Why does GDP matter? Because it's the primary measure of a nation's output and income. It helps us understand how much value an economy is generating, how fast it's growing, and how it stacks up against other countries. Now that we know what GDP is, let's talk about two versions of it, nominal and real GDP. They sound similar, but they tell very different stories. Nominal GDP is measured in current prices. It doesn't adjust for inflation. So if prices go up, nominal GDP goes up, even if you are not producing more. Real GDP, on the other hand, adjusts for changes in the price level. It strips out inflation and gives us a clearer picture of actual growth in output. Next up, inflation, the silent force that makes your money worth less over time. Inflation is the rise in overall price levels in the economy. When it climbs, your purchasing power drops. To track inflation, we use the Consumer Price Index (CPI). It's like a shopping basket filled with everyday items, showing how prices change over time. And what causes inflation? Often is when the money supply expands too quickly, more money chasing the same amount of goods. But inflation isn't always steady. It can swing to extremes. Hyperinflation is when prices skyrocket uncontrollably. It crushes savings and stalls economic growth. On the flip side, deflation is when prices fall. Sounds good? Not quite. It can lead to lower wages, reduced spending, and economic stagnation. Now let's talk about another vital indicator, unemployment. Unemployment occurs when people who are actively seeking work can't find jobs. It's a key signal of economic health. For example, if 8% of the labor force is willing and able to work but can't find employment, that's a red flag. There's different types. Frictional, short term between jobs, cyclical, tied to economic ups and downs, structural, caused by technological shifts that displace workers. High unemployment means underused resources and lower consumer spending, both of which drag down economic growth. Now, how do the changes in these indicators provide insight into the business cycle? GDP rises during expansion where the economy is growing, slows at peak due to signs of overheating, falls at contraction as production and demand drops, and hits bottom at trough before recovery begins. For inflation, demand pushes prices up at expansion, accelerates it as it peaks, and slows down at contraction. Unemployment falls at expansion leading to more jobs, at its lowest at peak, rises up at contraction, and stays high at trough until recovery kicks in. Moving on, why are understanding general economic conditions relevant for Shopee? When GDP increases, incomes rise and consumers have more disposable income to spend online. In downturns, households cut back on non-essential purchases, directly reducing Shopee's sales volumes. Rising inflation increases costs for logistics, warehousing, and imported goods, making price-sensitive shoppers turn to cheaper alternatives. Increasing unemployment reduces consumer spending but may lower Shopee's labor costs, especially in its logistics arms like SPX Express. Shopee will experience strong demand and sales growth at expansion, where investing in logistics and marketing could benefit them. At peak, demand is high, but Shopee will face rising costs, with hence balancing growth with profitability is important for the company. Recession occurs at contraction, where consumer spending is reduced and cart abandonment occurs, increasing the pressure for discounts. At trough, Weak demand persists, but Shopee can use this period to streamline operations and prepare for the next recovery. This allows Shopee Singapore to anticipate demand, manage costs, and position itself competitively in a volatile e-commerce landscape. Secondly, aggregate demand and aggregate supply analysis. Let's analyze the effects of the tax rebate planned by the Singapore government on the economy. The tax rebate raises consumers' disposable income, boosting consumption, shifting aggregate demand to the right, increasing real GDP and the price level in the short run. In the short run, economic activity is stimulated and prices adjust over time, shifting aggregate supply to the left. It does not change in the long run. As AS shifts to the left, economy goes from unemployment to full employment. Now, let's take a look at what these tax rebates mean for Shopee in the short run. With households receiving more disposable income, we can expect a noticeable boost in online spending. Categories like electronics, home and living, beauty, and daily essentials are likely to see the strongest uplift. For Shopee, this is an opportunity to time promotions around the rebate period. Think rebate team campaigns, vouchers, and free shipping thresholds. These tactics can help capture the surge in demand and increase both traffic and conversion rates at the platform. Looking beyond the immediate boost, the long-term picture depends on whether Singapore's productivity programs succeed in shifting the economy's potential output. Shopee can also leverage government-backed initiatives in AI and digitalization to improve logistics, fraud detection, and personalization. Thirdly, tariffs and trade wars. Let's analyze the effects of the tariff on the United States market on mechanical keyboards that Shopee offers in the marketplace. The supply of goods falls, there is a price increase from a $20 tariff, decreasing the quantity demanded. The tariff also affects the welfare of US consumers, where consumer surplus is lower, and some are forced to switch from foreign to domestic brands. US producers win since they can sell more and the government earns revenue from the tariffs, while foreign producers like Shopee loses since they sell less in the US market. Let's delve into how Shopee will be impacted by these tariffs. Firstly, sellers face higher landed costs for shipments to the US, directly affecting their profit margins. As prices rise, US demand is likely to decrease, leading to fewer sales. Additionally, these tariffs introduce compliance risks. Stricter custom checks and the need for precise origin documentation can complicate the process. Some sellers may even withdraw from the US market entirely. These challenges will likely drive sellers to refocus efforts within ASEAN, intensifying local competition. With this shift, sellers are also exploring new supply chain bases, adapting to the changing landscape. Finally, consider the perception of US buyers. Seeing Shopee sellers as tariff hit could deter cross-border sales, further impacting Shopee's market presence. Lastly, insights from behavioral economics. Traditional economics assumes consumers and producers behave rationally, always maximizing utility or profit. However, behavioral economics show that real-world decisions are influenced by biases, intuitive judgment, and emotions, leading to irrational or inconsistent behavior. Recognizing these tendencies can help Shopee Singapore design more effective marketing, pricing, and user experience strategies. The first example is framing effects in promotions. Consumers' choices often depend on how options are presented rather than on actual economy value. Shopee can frame discounts and deals in ways that make them more attractive. For example, save $10 may not be seen as appealing as get 20% off only today. Highlighting limited time flash sales with countdown timers creates urgency and increases conversions. Understanding framing helps Shopee improve ad copywriting, promotion wording, and product presentation to influence consumer perception and boost sales. Next example is status quo bias in defaults. Consumers prefer to stick with default options rather than make active changes. Shopee can leverage this by setting default delivery options like Shopee Express or auto-renewing vouchers as the default for returning users. This encourages repeat purchases without requiring extra decision effort. Recognizing the power of defaults can help Shopee increase customer retention and loyalty to frictionless, familiar experiences. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.